Hi everyone, Deb Tucker here from Studio 180 Design. In this video, I'm going to share with you how we create what we call striped 60 units. And now these are units that are designed to go along with our Star 60 tool. So you're obviously going to need to have that. And you know, we always recommend that you be familiar with the tool and basic instructions, no matter what technique sheet it is, before you jump into something that goes above and beyond. And the technique sheet is the other item that you're going to need to have with you to be able to make these striped 60 units. And this is a way that you're going to be able to add some spin to your units as you create your blocks. Now to get started, you're going to have to make some decisions. First decision is the size unit you want to make. I happen to be working with 6-inch units today, and you know, one of the things that I always do on my technique sheet, because they're laminated, is I just use a marker and mark the size that I'm working on for this particular project. That way I can make sure I'm always on the right lines and getting the right numbers when I'm doing my cutting. But then you're going to have to figure out not only your size, but the colors you want to use and where those colors are going to be placed in your Star 60 unit. We call this the outer because it's going to end up being around the outside when we piece these in a hexagon. This one we call the inner, and this one is the middle. And the reason you need to know that is because when you consult the chart for cutting, the outer and the middle strip are cut the same size, but that inner strip is actually cut just a little bit wider. And this technique, even though the sewing is quite simple, has a 5-star difficulty rating because to get those strips to be about equal in my finished project, some of those strips are actually cut at 1/8 of an inch. So don't let that scare you because that's not all that hard to do, but that's the hardest part of the whole operation. So I'm going to do 3 strips, blue, yellow, and green, outer, middle, inner, and then I'm going to show you how you set them up for stitching them together into a strip set. So when you go to stitch your strip sets together, what you're going to want to do is stagger the ends. So we don't want to start with them all the ends even. There's a diagram that you're going to want to follow, and the inner strip is lowest, then this one is staggered up a little bit, and this one is staggered up a little bit. That stagger is about half the width of the strip. It doesn't have to be precise, but it's going to allow you to get the maximum cuts out of your strip. Now here's something that you will probably want to do. I know that I like to do that. When I go to make my strips into a set, what I always do is stitch 2 of the strips together first. Once they're stitched, go to the iron and press them as a pair. And then add the next strip and press it. All of the seams in your strip set are to be pressed toward that inner strip. You can see that on this side here. The reason I don't want to sew all the strips together and then press them is because I don't get as good a straight line. That's another thing that you want to try to do is when you're pressing these, keep that strip as straight as possible so you're not going to get any bowing when you go to do your subcutting. Once your strip set is constructed and it's pressed nice and straight, here's how you subcut diamonds out of the strip. Right-handed, you're going to flip the strip wrong side up on your cutting mat. Once it's wrong side up, you can see the stagger that's on this side. Right-handers will start on the far left and work their way to the right-hand side. And as a right-hander, the first thing you're going to do is just take your tool, line it up here, and make a trim along this side. Now I'm going to do that in just a minute, but I want to show you how you would do this if you are left-handed. Left-handers, instead of starting at the left, need to start at the right-hand side of the unit. And for them to be able to cut comfortably, what you need to do if you're left-handed is place your strip on your mat, right side up, put your ruler here, make your angle cut. Now after you make that angle cut, that's when it's going to be easier for you to be cutting along the left-hand side of your ruler so that it's comfortable for you as a left-hander. So let's go back to the right-handed. And those diagrams are both on the technique sheet and also on our free downloads page. So let me flip this over because I'm right-handed. I'm going to start on the left-hand side. The first thing I'm going to do is set up my 60-degree angle. And to do that, all I'm doing is taking one of the lines, that's a horizontal guideline, that's on the Star 60 tool, placing it on a seam line, and making that first cut back in that direction. After I have that, the next thing I'm going to do are to subcut my diamonds. Now, I'm making a 6-inch unit. When I consult the chart tells me that I'm going to use the 7-inch diamond point guidelines to subcut those diamonds. So I'm looking at the 7, and those are the diamond guidelines that go right down there to the number 7. Place those onto the base of the strip set and along what I just cut. And that's going to give me an oversized diamond for me to be able to create my striped 60 unit. Now, just as a quick refresher, the chart told me that I needed 4-inch strips for those side triangles to turn it into a Star 60 unit. And once I have those strips, I'm going to simply put 4-inch horizontal guideline on my 4-inch strips with that small line at the top and cut those side triangles. And you know, those are going to be placed one on either side of your striped diamond. And you're going to need 2 of those for every diamond that you make in order to build your hexagon blocks. The next step, of course, is going to be to stitch these together. Follow the same construction order that we give you in the basic instructions. I would put these in stacks of 6. 6 here, 6 here, 6 here. And I always attach the right-hand triangle to the diamond first. So I'd move that stack of 6 out of the way, flip that over, and I line up the little nub that's on the side triangle with the edge there. But when I go to stitch this, I always like to stitch with the diamond on top. So I would flip that over, stitch along the outermost strip on the diamond. That will give me something like this. And be sure to follow the pressing directions that we recommend on the technique sheet as well as in the instructions. Pressing this seam going in this direction, and when you add the next diamond on the next side by doing the same thing, matching up the nub and doing the stitching on this side, press that seam toward the triangle. What that's going to do, that consistent assembly and that consistent pressing, it will help all of your seams nest when you go to build your pieces. Now there's one other thing. When I add this second triangle, a lot of times you're going to see a little pop of color from the diamond that's underneath. And if that's dark and you don't remove that dog ear, that can shadow through in your projects. So after I have my stitching done, I would actually come back and trim that dog ear off so I don't have to worry about that shadowing effect. Once your pieces are complete, it's time to trim them down. And if you've made any of the Star 60 units with the basic instructions, we're going to follow the exact same steps. This is a 6-inch unit. I'm right-handed, so I'm tipping the point a little to the right. I'm looking at the 6-inch diamond point guidelines on the tool, and that's what I'm placing on the seams between the diamond and the side triangles. Here and here for the number 6. And then what I'm going to do is come up one side and across the other. Now that's your right-handed, and you can see how that's going to make a perfect sized diamond when I'm finished. Remember, if you're left-handed, instead of tipping that point toward the right, as a left-hander, you would simply tip that toward the left so that it's a more comfortable cutting situation for you as a left-hander. You may want to build a block and then trim the outside edge, but if you want to trim that base, what you'll use is the flat edge trim line that's on the base of the tool, flat edge trim line along the seams that are sewn. Make sure that that center line comes right down through the center of your diamond. And when you trim that, you now have a perfectly sized unit to go on and build some of these exciting things that you see behind me. And you know, the neat thing about Studio 180 Design tools is you can make quite large blocks, but you can also make some pretty small ones. They're all those sizes. I think there's 13 different sizes are listed on the technique sheet. So you're not going to get the numbers for just one size, and nor do you have to buy a different tool for every size that you're doing. And so these were some of the different sizes of what we just made. But remember, this is a unit that can easily be teamed up with a regular Star 60 unit. It can also be constructed a little bit differently. On this one, the Star 60 unit, instead of 2 white triangles, I actually replaced that with a colored triangle. Isn't that fun? And you know, you look at this one here and you see that the Stripe 60 unit is teamed up with the large companion triangles. And they don't always have to make hexagons. You can also make triangles. You can turn them into borders. These are shapes. What you do with a shape is up to you. And I hope that when you go on to create some of your interesting quilts using our Star 60 tool, that you share those photos with us. We love show and tell here at Studio 180 Design. Now you ought to be able to find all this stuff, the Star 60 tool, the basic that come with the basic instructions, the technique sheet for the Stripe 60. You can find all that at your local quilt shop. But if they don't happen to have it, you can come directly to us and we'll ship it out to you as soon as possible. So have fun. Thanks for joining me. And remember, send us some photos.